Good morning, world. This is Steve Rao, the host of Pod and Roku TV's World Edition, and I welcome you to this show from the all-America city of Morrisville in North Carolina, the eighth largest state in the United States. And I'm honored today to host this show, as always, where we talk about global affairs, innovation, an increasingly turbulent world, politically, economically, upcoming presidential elections of 2024, which everyone is watching very closely, and also we've had air quality issues around the country because of the fires in Canada. We've got a shooting in Richmond at a high school, and lots of stuff going on as gun violence continues to spread in this country like a cancer. We today have a special guest who will be joining us shortly. We might be having some technical difficulties, but today we were going to be interviewing Sanjay Puri, who chairs the United States Political Action Committee, to talk about the U.S.-India relationship and Prime Minister Modi's upcoming state visit on June 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. Sanjay is the longest-serving chair of the U.S.-India PAC. His organization has also worked to take delegations of many governors and senators and Congress leaders to India. And I actually had the honor of serving as a board member there as a spokesperson for the PAC, representing the 1.8 million Indian Americans in the United States. And I will be there with him and his colleagues and our colleagues as the Prime Minister meets the community across the United States, the Congress, and Joseph R. Biden, the President of the United States. Before I bring in Sanjay, a couple of things we're going to talk about today is the rise of India, an economic superpower, fifth largest economy in the world, 340 million connected now to broadband internet, 100,000 startups, 30 are unicorns, 1.2 billion with a digital identity, and a technology workforce that is booming, with 60% of India's population under the age of 26. And we will be welcoming its Prime Minister Narendra Modi, to the United States of America to talk about the opportunities for partnership, the opportunities for collaboration, but also looking at the instabilities around the world. What are the challenges of this relationship, and what can we do to address any concerns? I now would like him to join us today. We're honored to have our very special guest, Sanjay Puri. Sanjay, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Steve, for having me. Really appreciate the opportunities, Steve.
Sanjay, we can't see you, so if you could oh, there you are. Great, wonderful. Well, Sanjay, we welcome you to this global show that's streamed on Roku. Everyone around the country and world is watching this today, so we're very excited to have you. And I gave you a lot there in my monologue to kind of just open the door, but let's just jump right in and talk about this historic visit from Prime Minister Narendra Modi for the state visit in Washington, D.C. What does this meeting mean? What are some of the goals and objectives? And talk to us a little bit about the U.S.-India relationship and how it's evolved.
So, Steve, just to put things in context, we've not had too many state visits from leaders, whether it's President Biden or President Trump. Now, part of it was we had COVID for a few years. So he's getting a state visit, but there's also a joint address to Congress, and this will be his second. And there are not too many leaders who've done multiple addresses to Congress because, these are done very selectively. So I think it speaks a lot about the importance that this administration and this government, and when I say administration, it's in many ways bipartisan because this address to the joint session is, actually driven in many cases by the Republicans who are in control of the House. So I think you're seeing a real focus on this relationship and real attention to make this one of the central pieces of this administration, Steve.
Okay, fantastic. And so we have a panel that's going to be coming in and asking questions, but let's just talk about the different areas of the relationship. So one, let's start with economics. I mean, recently at the Indian ambassador's residence at the India House, it was presented with the new ambassador from India to India, Eric Garcetti there. It was called the Federation of Indian Investment Report, FICCI, and they basically said 40 billion of investment, 425,000 jobs of Indian multinationals in the U.S., 1 billion in R&D. And then I just talked about this growing workforce, 60%. So where are the business opportunities for investment and trade right now between U.S. and India?
So I think you're seeing a tremendous dynamic that is happening. Because of the large Indian American community, the businesses back and forth. Obviously, technology is a big element of this. It's not just companies having a back office in India. We sell a lot of technological products, servers, computers, and now Apple has opened 3 stores there, and they're doing shifting some of their manufacturing to India. It's become that China plus one, which is where people are diversifying manufacturing, not just Apple, but many other products are being done there. So I think you're going to see some tremendous opportunities in defense. You're going to see tremendous opportunities in energy. You're going to see a lot of opportunities in climate tech. So, the things that are kind of important to both countries, energy, we export natural gas. India is a buyer. India is obviously dependent on external sources for its energy consumption. And India is becoming one of our largest buyer of our defense equipment, 22 billion a year. So, and it's going to be across multiple areas, Steve, that we will start seeing things happen.
Fantastic. And let's talk a little bit about national security. And we're going to bring in the panel, and hopefully we'll go a little longer with you today. Um, we've got the new world, the new Henry Kissinger, who just turned 100 last week, has talked about this war now, Cold War, could be a Cold War, hot war between China and the U.S. This is also not only from nuclear arms, but also AI technology. Obviously, there's going to be a fight for the White House, whether it's Biden, Trump, whoever, or DeSantis. Where does India play into kind of the national security interests of the United States in terms of dealing with China? And it's a difficult question to ask you because we're in the middle of a war between Russia and Ukraine. And on the show, it often comes up, why is India not really coming out against Russia? So how does this all play out in terms of the diplomacy between the two countries? Hopefully the president and the prime minister will be talking about this a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, as far as diplomacy is concerned, I think what the United States uh, has figured out is that it's not just important for us to be strong in certain core technologies, but we also need our allies to be strong in there. So when you look at basically 4 cornerstones that have been identified, it's cybersecurity, it's space, it's quantum computing, those kinds of things that not only should we be strong in, but if we are going to be protecting sea lanes, then we need to have our key core allies. So India is in the Quad. So that becomes very important because we have the South China Sea. So the Quad is Japan, it's India, it's, Australia and the United States. So that's South China Sea. So now we are sharing a lot of technology as far as space technology. We are sharing a lot of cyber related technologies. We are sharing, quantum computing technology. Those are some of the key things that are happening, and we're doing that with Australia, we're doing that with Japan, and we're doing that with India because that's going to be needed to keep things going because uh, the world is kind of connected. If cyber takes down some of the things in India, we are not going to be able to have command communication across the board. So those are some of the things that are happening at the defense front.
Yes, so defense, trade, economic development, and I guess we're all going to be finding out about this. And what is the objective then of this meeting? What would be a living in heaven outcome of this meeting that he's doing with Congress and with the president?
Well, as I said, we are coming out, Steve, from a COVID Zoom video conferencing era. So part of it is, kind of going back to building that one-on-one relationship, which I think really is important because, yes, countries have interests, but also it makes a difference between the personalities and interests of the people. So I think it's the prime minister getting a real strong binding with President Biden and also his team. Uh, you're going to see a lot of defense deals that will get announced. You'll see some commercial aerospace deals that get announced. There is going to be some startup innovation things that will be announced, and a bunch of things on the energy side. So there will be economics things that will come out. There will be some security things that will come out. So you're going to see some, you know, uh, big announcements, big ticket announcements that will hopefully help both countries, because both of we have democracies. They all have to get elected. President Biden has an election next year. Prime Minister Modi has an election next year. President Biden needs to create jobs. Prime Minister Modi needs to create jobs. So hopefully these will be announcements that will help both countries, but also help both leaders politically too.
And we talk about my last question, and then we're going to open up the panel. Um, we talk about jobs. So John Chambers, whom we're trying to bring on the show, and also you and I are trying to bring him on a new podcast that we're starting, has said that in the next decade, we're going to automate away 40% of our jobs. AI is accelerating at unprecedented rates. And the new jobs, it's going to be the fight for the jobs. 15 million is what Chambers says. Many are on startups. And you've got this huge young population. You've got internet now booming with 340 million, which is a real game changer for India. Where does India play into the kind of global economic powerhouse of talent? Because at the end of the day, that's something we all need. And so I'm assuming it's good for the US that India has that much talent, but, it's also competitive in that, some of these people are waiting for their visas. They may end up going back to India to start their companies.
Steve, you asked a very good question. Obviously, AI is going to take away a lot of jobs and also simultaneously create a lot of jobs. The way I look at it, and I'm sure you have kids and you'll relate to that the same, the technology adoption by younger people, whether it's learning a new language or adopting a new technology, is much, much, much faster. India is a country of young people, absolutely. And it's a country that is digitizing and going digital very, very fast now. Everybody has a mobile phone. Everybody is connected. The bandwidth rates are one of the lowest in the world, or maybe the lowest in the world. So that has given a real big impetus. So I think they really have a chance in this knowledge economy, because the future is really going to be about the knowledge economy. When John Chambers talks about these jobs, the mundane stuff that people do is going to be done by AI. A lot of the even basic things. I mean, if you look what Amazon is doing, 60% of their delivery pieces are being done by robotics and stuff like that. So a lot of that is going to be done, but the creative and other stuff that is going to happen, it's going to be by people. And I think India and the United States is going to have an opportunity. US is very strong on innovation, and India has a tremendous pool of young, digitally savvy people. I mean, it is, think about it, 60% of the people are below, the age of 30, etc. I mean, that's staggering. And these are people in many ways very digitally savvy. So I think it is going to create opportunities, but there's going to be a serious shift and changes that are happening, Steve.
Fantastic. Well, I think we've covered a lot. I've gotten so, been doing these interviews now for a few years that I didn't even take notes. It just came from the mind. But we're going to now bring on our esteemed panel, and we'd love to have you for the hour because we have so much to talk about, whatever you've got. But we've got with us today Mark Lee, who's the co-host of the show, and other panelists. So we're going to bring them in, and we're going to open it up to talk about the U.S.-India relationship. We also have with us Sasha Starr, who is actually one of our analysts on Russia and Ukraine. He's a Ukrainian immigrant who lives in Canada. And, we want to have his perspective about kind of India. So, guys, be respectful with your questions. I know there's some concerns about India, but we do have the head of the pack here, and he can
No,
take us through.
just a quick question, and I had it for Sanji, and I think it's a fair question and everything. But India is a very large country. There's no doubt about that. And a lot of times when we think about large countries or even large continents, we try to make it a uh, monolithic kind of viewpoint that there is all of this kind of like one mind kind of attitude. And I know that that is not the case from India, as I have friends from that country and all along those lines. So I was just wondering if you could maybe talk about some of that diversity within India and where the growth is primarily taking place. And like here in the U.S., there is problems with the homeless population there in India as well. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about the economic problems that India faces as well, because that is something that I've heard conversations about, and I'd love to hear your perception about that, because I know a lot of times people think of India and they think of the um, big areas of India, but I do know that India is a very vast country that has a lot of diversity in its population.
Mark, you're absolutely right. India, in many ways, is think of it like either 26, 29 countries put together in a country. Because if you go from the north to the south, the people, the languages, the food, the way the people look in many ways is completely different. If you go to the northeast, it's completely different. People look different, talk different, eat different, and that's across the board in many cases. So that's just the fact of India. It's a large country. It's obviously made up of different religions. India has practically a lot of religions that you can think of. Uh, but just like you said, Mark, it's right now the most populated country in the world, and it has its challenges. Young population is great demographic to have, but if you don't create jobs fast enough for them, then it becomes as great a problem also. So India needs to continue creating jobs, but also has to work on infrastructure. It needs to all do it within a democratic framework, a rule of law, and making sure they respect the different cultures, the different identities. Language is a big issue in India. You have multiple languages, and people don't like one language getting slammed down. That becomes a very sensitive issue because people in the south speak differently. People think Hindi is like the big language. Well, people in the south don't speak Hindi, and they don't want to speak Hindi. So, and they don't have to. So my point is, it's not a monolith. It's the challenges uh, are great, but I think the opportunities are even greater, and it seems to be on the right path. And I think it has some incredible opportunities, but there is still a large scale poverty there. There's still um, infrastructure and other challenges if you go outside those big cities, Mark, because it's a country of 1.4 billion people. Just think about it, and one third the size of the United States, and what, maybe 4.5 times the population. So crammed a lot of people into that country, and those that creates a lot of challenges.
If I could just ask one
Um,
quick follow up, and then Jacoby, I'm going to turn it over to you. But one of the things that I have admired about the Indian population and even other populations like Nigeria and others is that even though there is that diversity of views, diversity of populations, a lot of times when you come to the United States, there is a unity. And I do see that a lot of times Indian communities grow up and they actually are very supportive of each other despite where they came from when they come to the United States. So I just wondered if you could speak to that, because that's something that I've observed in. I'm in Durham, but I've observed it in Cary. I've observed it in some of the other places that have very big enclaves of Indian population. So I just wondered if you could speak to that, because that does seem to be something that a lot of people admire. Some people also get frustrated by it because it does seem to be very insular, meaning that it's very much protecting of their own and everything. But I just wondered if you could speak to that.
Um, Mark, obviously, when you look at the first generation, there were very few people of Indian origin who are here, so they kind of mingle together. But now in the second and the third generation, uh, they, like our kids are now Americans, and they think American, they act American, and they're as American as apple pie. As far as the first generation, yes, they were helping each other, but as Steve will tell you, there's still a lot of competitiveness because we were brought up. It's a country of 1.4 billion people with limited resources, so you were always fighting for them. So that kind of spirit always stays there. So there's a lot of competitiveness amongst Indian Americans, but the core values I think that binds Indian Americans or people of Indian origin together. I think those are the same, and the struggles that they've all gone through are the same.
Jacoby, I turn it over to you.
Oh, I mean, I just really had one quick question. Well, one quick long-winded question, I guess, because I know India is considered one of the biggest IT outsourcing destinations, and with the boom from Bollywood and Mumbai movies, and now with the advancements of AI, and AI is going to hit those industries the biggest, with the movie industry, with writers, with the IT industry. Is there any way? I mean, what are the best ways that individuals in India, as well as the programmers and developers in the US, how can we work together to attack that onslaught of AI that's going to take just jobs away?
I think you asked a fantastic question, and that's something I've been thinking about for a long time. I mean, Jatovi, my background is technology. My actual background is in AI. I started my career through that. If you and any of us who have done programming will understand now that you go to GitHub. GitHub has a Copilot. It can basically, I mean, I shouldn't say it, but it can do 90% of your programming for you. You don't need thousands of programmers to write code. That's just the reality that people now need to face. Um because and it does it better. It will finish code. It will document it, etc. So what does that mean for people? Well, it means that they need to be doing bigger and more important things. Now, India has thrived in this whole, you know, things that are mechanical, that take a lot of time. It's grunt kind of work. So how would that uh, play out for them? That's a very, very important question to which I think they are grappling with right now.
Yeah,
Because,
exactly. Yep.
sorry,
The productivity, right, is changing. So how we use our time, and it's I mean, like for me, like I write a city newsletter. Usually takes me about 5 hours, but now I'm using ChatGPT. Guess what? It's taking me 5 minutes, and it's actually finding my images and my pictures, and so now whatever I had time, I can spend on other things, right? So it's going to
yeah,
increase productivity for proposals and things, but it might affect jobs as
yeah. But
well.
think about if I've given, so I'm a insurance company and I've given a job to an Indian outsourcing company, and they've got 400 people employed doing this work, and now through whether it's chat gpt or any other llm, that job can be done by 50 people. Now you could say these guys can do other things. Well, we'll find other things, but right now I'm a big insurance company. I said, okay, I only need 50 people. It's the Indian company's responsibility to find other things for those 350 people. So I think India is going to have some reckoning to do to make sure. Now, obviously, Jatovi, LLMs don't get written up. ChatGPT doesn't get written up by itself. You're going to need machine language programmers. You're going to need those high level folks up there. But I think you also address how can US and India actually work on it. Right now, there is a real shortage for machine learning and those kinds of people. And I think that's where maybe the opportunity is in those high level kind of jobs, because the low level coding jobs are going away or are gone. I mean, that's just the secret that everybody has to understand, that that's gone. But it's going to create these high-level other jobs, and
Mark,
hopefully we'll work.
Hey,
Mark,
Sanjay.
let's go to Sasha real quick. Sasha has been patient. Can we let him ask a question from his
Yeah,
perspective?
no problem.
Please. Sasha.
Sasha, your job is not going away. I can promise you that.
Probably not. No, I wouldn't worry about that. I have more political question to you. Um, I'm afraid that India does not appreciate the changes what are happening right now in the world. The Russia will be no more as a unified country. The Russia will be now defeated by Ukraine with the help of NATO, United States, and more than 50 countries actually helping it. Because obviously the ruler of Russia, Putin, is a madman who unleashed incredible atrocities yesterday by destroying the dam, which took several lives of innocent human beings, and that's not going to be taken lightly, and he will be punished severely, probably soon. In the meantime, India is buying Russian oil products, therefore supplying him the money necessary to wage this unjust war against Ukraine. And India is really part of Western democracy, or so we like to believe. And if that's the case, is this money is so important to India as to uh, buy products supplied by uh, the crime-ridden regime? And it's just not Putin. It's not just people around him. It's all country today is a terrorist country. It's quite evident why India is doing that. That's my question.
Sasha, it's a very relevant question, and I think the Prime Minister is going to deal with that. Now, obviously, just to clarify, I'm an American citizen. I don't speak for India, but what I can tell you is their position. And Sasha, you probably know the history of the Russian Indian relationships that go back
Yes, I do.
decades and decades and decades ago. And there is a history there, and it is in the psyche of every Indian that the Soviet Union, now Russia, has always been there for India whenever their backs been to the wall, whether it was in the Security Council, whether it is in their defense equipment and others. Their history with the United States, now things have changed dramatically, but I'll give you the history is not the greatest, and they always have the fear that United States has transactional relationships with countries, and the case in point would be Afghanistan, our withdrawal in Afghanistan, and many other cases, etc. While the relationship they've had with Soviet Union and Russia has been a long-standing relationship. So that I think, and also India imports close to 70% plus of its fuel and natural gas and petroleum needs from overseas, whether it's Middle East and others. So what has happened is the Middle East has when the Europeans started banning Russian oil products, they started buying from the Middle East. Well, the Indians were buying from the Middle East, but the Middle East started selling it to the Europeans for higher price. So Indians didn't have too many other places to go, just like China did, because Europeans are paying better money. So the Indians are buying it from Russia, just like China. And I mean, I can rattle off so
Right.
many other
Okay,
countries that.
may I interject? I'm listening very carefully to everything what you just said, and I think you need a very serious adjustments to better formulate your thoughts. Number one, look at oil prices. They are going down for last 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. We have here on the network some people who predict the oil will be $150 a barrel and $200 a barrel. This is wishful thinking. Oil is nothing but commodity, and there are a lot of oil in this world. Some of them are being better developed, some not, but there is no shortage of oil, period. So I don't understand. That doesn't cut at all the idea of India buying from Soviet Union or Russia.
Well,
Now,
maybe the thing,
this relationship between Soviet Union and Russia and India, it's purely artificial. You don't understand that Soviet Union for all these years, it was starving their own people, helping by Cuba, Warsaw Pact countries, India in that respect, or so on. So India, in a way, is using this horrible policy of Soviet Union starving to death their own people. I'm talking about tens of millions of people, by the way. And India is definitely bright enough to understand it, and yet it prefers to close eyes. Now, when you're saying that American policy is transactional, it's great, because transaction goes into next transaction. You have to be useful to each other. If it's not, then these transactions not need to be and take place at all. So don't
Yeah.
be scared of
Well, I
a
wanna emphasize
transactional
that-
policy.
Sasha,
Sanjay, we
Sasha, hold on a
appreciate-
second.
first of all, let me interject here, Mark. First of all,
Yeah.
Sanjay is not a representative of the Indian government. He is the leader of the pack, and he can convey these concerns. That's the whole reason he and I are going to be in Washington together. So, Sanjay, we appreciate Sasha's candor. Want to make sure that the tone, and I think he's just a very honest and transparent person.
Of
I will
course.
defend the one thing I will say though, Sasha, is that oftentimes diplomacy can be very complicated, right? I mean, at the end of the day, regardless of whatever, I agree with some of the things you were saying. We also have to remember that during the Cold War, the Soviet Union typically, I think, was backing Pakistan a lot. And so this was something that didn't help the relationship, right? So maybe we need to look at mutually objectives. And if we can find an alternative for India to get other energy sources, maybe that's what the president needs to be talking about, Modi. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there as trying to be
Steve, just along the same lines, and a quick question, and I'm not going to say one way or the other whether it's a good thing or another or not, but we do know that there has been conversations around a new alliance, and a new alliance that features new monetary kind of systems, and we did talk about that briefly yesterday when we were touching on crypto and everything. But I was just wondering, Sanjay, do you think that President Biden and Prime Minister Modi will be talking about or reflecting at all? Because I did hear Nick's comment earlier on BRIC, which is this alliance between Brazil, Russia, India, and China, and maybe a possible new monetary alliance as well. But do you think that this will be one of the conversations that will take place, and where do you think that conversation will go?
The BRICS obviously also has South Africa in there.
Yes.
They're trying to expand that a little bit. Now, BRICS has been a little bit dormant, to be very frank with you now. And I just, they've got the Quad, they've got the AUKUS, if we don't need too many other configurations, because the question is we need to strengthen the ones that we have. But in terms of what they're trying to, one of the things that is going on with the BRICS, just to be telling you, is they're all trying to do trade in their local currencies. And again, Sasha, I'm not an apologist for India, to be very frank with you, as Steve just said. But coming to your point, I think the energy is definitely going to be on the table in terms of conversation with them. India is aggressively moving towards renewable energy sources in terms of solar, wind. They're really, this prime minister is committed to the goals that were put out in the Paris Accord. There is a big desire, but to shift, and we can look at the United States. That's a 10, 20, 30-year shift, but he's got a country of 1.4 billion people that needs power for basic light, water, heat, electricity that he has to get. Now, obviously, United States is going. We have plenty of gas and other stuff that we are going to do. They are signing deals with countries like Guyana and everywhere else. So I think there will going to be a shift. Yes, oil and gas are now at a lower price, but uh, you know, I think there is going to be a lot of conversation towards energy. There's going to be a lot of conversation towards innovation. There's been a talk about digital currency also, a national digital currency. So maybe that will be also a conversation.
Yeah.
I do have a question to tie in, I guess, to what you had brought up, because I think there was one point that the big thing that I think you touched on, which is hard for a lot to understand, is that old time relationship, regardless of that idea of one being transactional, and the old time relationship in people's views dealing with 1.4 billion people is hard to change. We have in our country, we just have 350 million people roughly. And we still have problems that run that same gamut where, you have these old time beliefs that, hey, this group of individuals, I'm going to stick with them regardless of whatever they do. And I'm going to vote and deal with them, even though their views are taking away from what I really want to do in the long run. And yes, that's around politics and so on and so forth. But in that geopolitical scale, my question to you would be how, and this could honestly help our country and help our smaller scale political system. How do you break through that wall? How do you get through to an individual that says, hey, this group has stuck with me, in the old times, so I'm going to stick with them in the new times because I'm afraid, using the old adage, you stick with the devil that you know and don't go for the devil that you don't know. And that's that old adage that people tie to. So in that geopolitical scale, how do you crack that wall? How do you get through that to get people to see another light?
I think that's a very good question, Jatovi, but I
Very
think
good.
that wall has been cracked because 60% of the people are below the age of 30. They don't know what Cold War and all that other stuff. They've grown up on reality TV. They've grown up on watching, Beyonce and all these other things that are happening. They've gotten the American, they've come here to study, they've gone back, they've built businesses that do business here. The prime minister of this country is getting a state dinner and speaking to the joint session. So US, India has become one of the largest buyer of US defense equipment, $22 billion worth of defense equipment that is going there. It's not a small amount. So that wall has been broken. Yes, there is still that older generation that remembers that Americans sent the Seventh Fleet during the war with Pakistan against India. They still remember that U.S. has supplied so much defense equipment to Pakistan, which uses that to attack India, etc. But the younger generation is as Americanized as anything else. I mean, because that's what they want. They don't want anything else. Just like we have American Idol, they have Indian Idol. They have all our shows. They've copied them or relegated to them, and they work in IT companies that support tens of thousands of people that work for Microsoft. There are tens of thousands that work for IBM and Google and other stuff. So that cultural assimilation is happening and has happened because we are all social media, we are all connected. India is the largest user of WhatsApp in the world, one of the largest users of Instagram. India, unlike China, America can sell and provide all these tools to them, and it's an fairly open society. So
Is
but things are changing.
Yeah. Sanjay, I have a lighthearted question. I will do that every once in a while, in addition to these hard-hitting questions and all along those lines. But I had the pleasure of seeing one of the Indian pop stars perform at the Hayti Heritage Center, where I work at, about 4 weeks ago. And all along those lines, there was some great Indian food that was provided. And I know that you and Steve are going to see Prime Minister Modi in the DC area. But if you were to bring him here, and all along those lines, what Indian restaurant would you recommend, or would you be taking them to? And all along those lines, because I do know that there are some great ones here, and there are some ones that people may admire, and all in that. So, what is one of your favorites? And I don't know if you were at that particular event that was at the Hayti Heritage Center, and I think it was Mr. Gupta that performed a certain form of traditional Indian music.
I think Steve would be able to answer this. You're asking about Raleigh, right?
Yeah, I
North
don't know.
Carolina.
I'm actually in Durham, but Raleigh or Durham.
I'm actually, Steve, maybe you can answer what is the right good Indian restaurant for Mark. I'm sure you have some good recommendations, Steve.
Yeah, we have a great recommendations. All kinds of Indian restaurants. There's so many. I mean, there's so many in Morrisville, Cary. Mark, I'll send you a list, and we'll figure it out. Right? I mean, it's a lot. I don't remember the name of the group. He had actually called me, and I had another event that night. But let's turn the table to infrastructure. Prime Minister Modi has made a lot of investments in infrastructure. I mean, roads, bridges, airports are nicer than U.S. airports. We in the U.S. have made investments in infrastructure with the 1.3 trillion, but it seems like Modi has made. That's whatever. I mean, I've heard that India doesn't even look the same in some of the urban areas. Also, there's a lot of poverty, but isn't it true that Fareed Zakaria has mentioned that people are going to be able to lift out of poverty quicker because of this digital identity that they have now, that they can quickly open up a bank account, wire money in, and they could create, scale up their small business creation. Is there truth to that?
Yeah, I mean the amount of roads, bridges, ports that they are building at the pace that they are doing is unbelievable. There is construction everywhere, metros, you name it. So, uh, and like I said, there's an advantage that countries like China and India have because they're starting from scratch. It's like they just skipped the landline and went to mobile, and that's what they're doing is building fresh airports and things of that nature. And as far as lifting people out of poverty, I think what they've done is before they were providing all these social services through middlemen. Now it's all going direct to the bank through the phone. Everybody, even the poorest person now uses digital payments through the phone. I mean, digital payments is much, much ahead of the United States. I would say probably the largest digital payment market today in the world is here in India, where everybody just pays through their phone apps, through Google Pay, this, that. I mean, when I come here, I feel really backward because they ask me, "Do you have this Google Pay, this Pay?" And I say, "I only have Apple Pay and I only have a credit card." Nobody uses credit card; they just use digitals. They just do QR codes, and this is the smallest shopkeeper to the larger one. So, and that has really propelled a lot of people in there. They've taken out the middle people. Corruption has gotten reduced because of that, not completely gone away, but that has really changed a lot of things, lifted a lot of people out of poverty. There's still long way to go, but the journey has begun, and the steps are now being laid for sure, Steve.
Hey, Mark, do you see that picture on there?
Hold on a second.
Do you see that picture? Thank you, Sanjay. Do you see the picture I presented?
I did not see the picture that you presented as of yet. Did you put it on a shared screen? Because I don't see anything.
Yeah, I
yet.
just took present screen. I'm trying to do it, but it's not working, so I'll do it later. It was a picture of me and Modi in 2007. Sanjay Puri had set up a delegation, and I'm sitting in a room with Prime Minister Modi, and I actually have hair, and I look like 10 years old. So I'll try to do it at the end, but it's pretty funny. So that's great, Sanjay. I mean, lots of investment in infrastructure. Obviously, I think that's going to be an opportunity. And then challenges with AI, AI drone systems, which can power up missiles. which can be dangerous for attacks on infrastructure. So, but I know we only have a few more minutes of your time.
And I
but-
didn't know if Lee had a question. He's been
Yeah.
patiently listening, so I didn't know if Lee had a question. He's the only
Yeah,
one.
Like, I had a few questions. First of all, welcome to the podcast. Sanjay, at the beginning when you opened up, you talked about AI and how it's taking a lot of jobs away. But I believe you also said something it's not taking away is the imagination. Why is AI not capable of doing that?
Well, not yet, because we still don't have completely sentient, and we are not there yet. Maybe, and that's where the worry is. To be very frank with you, and I don't want to get into it, but this is something that I'm working on, is to put some guardrails, because it's not just about jobs, but think about AI in the hands of the, so to speak, the wrong people, and wrong people anywhere in the world, in this country or wherever else. It can really do some bad things. Hey, can you, make give me a blueprint for a missile or a nuclear warhead or things of that nature, or can you hack this or do that? All those things are there, but the human sentiment is also getting in there. In about a few years that will get there, so we'll have full AGI, which is artificial generative intelligence, which is basically how you and I kind of completely use our sentiments, etc., to think.
So,
I mean, we have to assume that the bad guys will get it, just like they get nuclear weapons and whatever else. They're going to get
Yep.
the AI also.
Yeah,
They love
absolutely. I
AI.
mean, like I said, this is sort of a separate topic, but one concern that even the U.S. Senate's been having hearings about this is national security, AI-powered drone systems, where AI could control drones and then have launch attacks on infrastructure, right? That's scary. Also, from a foreign policy perspective, and this came up the other day, we were talking with one of Josh Stein, who's running for governor, his chief of staff, and he was saying that, his chief strategist, that in this political cycle, you could have someone's body which is a deep fake with the same voice saying something completely false. And what if that were to happen in national security, where it wasn't really Vladimir Putin or it wasn't Joe Biden, and you could actually say, I'm going to launch an attack on,
Impersonating.
right?
Yeah, impersonate. Hey, Sanjay, just really quickly, one of the things that I've heard about, and I actually have worked not just at that Cultural Arts Center, but also in the testing lane, is that a lot of times nuances are not covered. So that is why us that are humans still have a job. Not as many of us have a job, because I'm actually working on a project now, and it's only a select few of us that are working where it used to be hundreds, and that would be working on a project and all along those lines. But I was just wondering, as one that is in that field, do you think that we're going to get to a point where AI understands nuances, meaning that be it cultural nuances or ethnic nuances or other things? Because that is one of the reasons that they still need us humans, because somebody from West Virginia may not speak or write the same way as somebody from California, and so a lot of times us as humans can interpret that, whereas other people may not be able to interpret that, and that doesn't even cover the racial and the ethnic kind of things. But do you think that we're going to get to a point that AI is able to understand that?
The answer is absolutely yes, because the self-learning capability, and that's what is scary of the AI tools, is incredible. How they can learn and improve themselves. It is, because what we have seen is just the tip of the iceberg. What is coming? It is every day there's changes out there, but they will be able to learn and are able to learn the cultural, the racial, the religious, and all those. Because when you tell Chat GPT that please do this in the form of this kind of a person or that kind of person, so if you notice, it produces a document with the voice, use the voice of this person, as a formal voice, etc. Now as you refine it, you can even give it more sensitivity, and if the guardrails are off, you can do a lot. And I can tell you, Steve talked about defense and stuff. If you talk to, I had somebody attend a conference of police chiefs around the country, one of their number one topics is right now is AI. They're very, very worried because people are using, voice. If I have your voice, Mark, let's say on a Facebook or Instagram, I can replicate your voice, and they're having these ransom calls being made to parents by the kids, and so many other things that are happening out there. And as I said, it's just coming in many, many ways right now.
Right, absolutely. We have a few more minutes. Sanjay, you've been graceful with your time. Thank you so much. I mean,
I didn't know if Nick had a question. He's our boss and everything, and he's been definitely waiting and all in that space. I think he's the only one that hasn't asked the question. So I'll turn it over to Nick. Nick, you got any questions?
I don't think he's here right now.
Well, he was here earlier. Did he disappear again?
well, I think we've it's been a wonderful show with Sanjay Puri. Sanjay, you've really covered the gamut, and he and I are working together. I'll be arriving in Washington on the 21st evening, and the 22nd there will be the address to Congress, and then he and I are going to be hosting a congressional reception on the 22nd. Any of you are invited to DC to come with us if you're living in the U.S., and then we'll be spending some time together. And I'm catching they often joke when I got my place near the Capitol Hill, and I'll be FaceTime. Mark, I sent you a picture. Can you put the picture up I just sent for everybody? I want Sanjay to see it. If that's
You sent it via email. I can make that happen and
it would be a
everything.
great way to end the show, to show what.
Yes.
So Sanjay, that's a good way to end the show. So you have had a lot of success taking governors and delegations to India. So if people are interested in that, how do they reach out to you and to do that?
They can go to the US Impact website, Steve, where you are also a key part of it. And we are very, very happy to have them be part of our delegations. And these delegations basically serve a purpose in getting them connected to other companies that are looking to partner, work, buy stuff from them, mid-sized companies, small companies, because that's where the real energy and the opportunity is. It's not just the big one, two, or three companies. I think the energy in India today is really in the mid-sized companies.
What kind of opportunities are there for other companies to join this pact that are from other parts of society? Because I do know some people that are involved in the African American community as well as Native American community, and others that are entrepreneurs. So what are opportunities that exist for people to join this organization, and how does one join the organization if they are interested in some of these cross-cultural communications and cross-cultural opportunities in the business line?
A lot of opportunities. If they want to sell to India, they want to buy from India. I think there will be, a ton of opportunity. As I said, it's a country of 1.4 billion people, so they are, buying almost everything. And if we want to buy from them, there's an opportunity because India is one of the areas that's growing fast for them is when you think about in terms of natural food, when you start thinking of turmeric, ashwagandha, all these health foods that you see, a lot of them originate from India, and that's in billions of dollars. I think uh, we really, as we move towards more of wellness, especially after COVID, there is going to be a tremendous opportunity, and that's where India really needs to push a lot. And so I think there are a lot of opportunities here.
Yeah,
Right. There's a lot of opportunities. It's all
I
about
do have a question, Mark, for Sanjay, because I'm
Yes.
interested in the pack and the trip to India. Can you tell us a little bit about the trip to India? Because I just got back from a trip to Morocco, Spain, and Gibraltar, and I like kind of traveling. I'm going to Victoria. Otherwise, I would go up to Washington, D.C. I'm going to Victoria that week, D.C. But tell us a little about the trip and what you guys do on these missions and trips.
So basically, it's a primarily a delegation. It's a business delegation. Obviously, we throw in social aspects to it too. And generally, we cover three cities. And obviously, some of it is based on the participants, their interest, because just like in the US, in India, there are certain cities that are known for certain things, like Bangalore is very big in high tech. It's considered the Silicon Valley of India. Hyderabad is more on the bio-pharma side. Bombay or Mumbai is more on the financial side. Delhi is in the political capital, but also has manufacturing around it. So, and Chennai has automotive, Pune has automotive. So we basically, wow, Steve, that's that's a really blast from the past. Wow.
Well, anyway, maybe we can use an AI and get like my image. I might have my son help me where I get the Steve Rao current, and then so people think I'm actually meeting the prime minister.
Oh my God.
Of course, then I could get in trouble with the Secret
Or you
Service.
can just
Steve,
use,
is that a deep fake?
you can
Nice
use
picture.
DALL-E. You
What?
can just use DALL-E to morph yourself with the prime
Well,
minister.
if anybody knows that I'm going to be with Sanjay Puri, and I call it the graceful art of blocking and tackling my way through long lines, but you got to like my chances. I've met the president of the United States 3 times in a year, the vice president twice, and will we meet the prime minister of India? Doubt it, but you never count me out of the game, right? As long as they get in the room.
If not, Steve, the power of media and AI, we can put you in there and just do a deep fake, and so no one will know the difference.
But anyway, I just thought that'd be a good way to end the show. I know Sanjay's got to leave at the top of the hour.
No, we're almost done anyway, and I know you're going to do a closeout. I did see that Jovi wrote down that, because I know we were talking about crypto yesterday, that Indian crypto users represent 53% of the global total in 2023. So apparently they're doing 5 times more than the U.S. So I did see that Jovi had put that down, so we can have more conversations around that on tomorrow and on Friday. But they are definitely a leader in that area.
Yes, they are. Remember crypto, and I don't say it lightly, it's also a young person's interest in many ways, not to take it away that anybody can do it. And India is a young country that's digitally savvy. So that's what they're in, a country of 1.4 billion people. So
I would say that you can be very much digitally savvy, but if Bitcoin goes down in a few weeks from $68,000 to $17,000, it does not represent a store of value of any kind. There is no underlying security,
Jovi, stay quiet.
no demand.
Here comes the food fight.
It's nothing but huge scam. Now, my question to you, I'm not asking your opinion about that subject. Do you think this artificial intelligence theme, and there are a lot of US stocks in particular going doubles and triple and quadruple in a period of few weeks, as long as you say that it's company involved in any way in artificial intelligence?
Self-control, Jovi.
I think it could become another dangerous bubble where a lot of investors will lose a lot of money. And because you are talking about young people, they will lose 100% of their money, period.
again, I'm not a stock expert, but the only thing I can say is the company that makes the chips that run the large language models like ChatGPT and others is NVIDIA. And NVIDIA stock has been on a tear. There's a reason. There's right now a line and a backup to buy those chips. And people can't get enough of them. And it's going to be there for the next, at least in the near term. And that's why and they've projected earnings significantly, like 50% higher.
No, I understand everything about NVIDIA, and trust me, in last 6 months, from January to the end of May, in 5 months, I've made profit of 160% based on NVIDIA alone. There are some other.
Hey, Sasha, just really quickly, I know we're winding
I'm
down.
not asking about NVIDIA. I'm curious.
No, I know we're winding down, and we got to get ready to close out with Steve and everything.
Where?
But
Okay,
just really quickly, the only thing I was going to ask you is NVIDIA tied to OpenSea? Because OpenSea is one of the larger masks for crypto, and I think I heard something that Sanjay just said, but I'm not sure if I misheard him. So,
Well, listen, Jatovi's not an expert either on stocks, but he plays one on TV.
Well, folks, it's the top of the hour. Want to thank you all for being with us. There's no more important relationship than the relationship between India, the world's largest democracy today, and the United States of America, the world's oldest democracy. And we've also had Padma Bhushan winner Swadesh Chatterjee here, who Sanjay knows, and he wrote a book called Building Bridges. And I think it's an important bridge. And we want to thank Sanjay Puri for playing such a critical role in our country and the world, and joining with other leaders like Swadesh to continue to build that bridge, continue the linkage, looking for opportunities for partnership and collaboration, and diplomatically addressing the challenges as we fight for trade, investment, and opportunities for the U.S. and India. And obviously North Carolina, as we have an office in Bengaluru now to recruit investment in North Carolina, the likes of Infosys and HCL. Although $40 billion have been invested, I told Governor Cooper that North Carolina didn't make the top 10. So we have much work to do. Maybe they can come on a delegation with Mr. Puri. But on that note, we thank you for being on this special edition. We're going to probably re-air it as well before the Modi visit. Sanjay, I know you're going a million miles a minute. I want to thank you for being with us. Look forward to joining you in Washington, D.C. for the historic state visit. And I think I might get a place up there because I love it up there.
Yeah, you just keep going up there. I think you're trying to get an office up there is what I think you're trying to get. But Sanjay and everything, I would agree with something that Jatovi said earlier, and all in that space, which is that you've been a great guest, and we hope that you will come back more times than less times. So we hope that you have enjoyed the conversation and that you will be one to come back on multiple times to share your thoughts both on technology, Indian politics, and other things that are in your interest lanes, because I think I can speak for everybody in saying that we would love to have you come back whenever you are available.
And if anybody wants to learn how to make money in the stock market, please attend our show at 1:00. Thank you.
There you go. Sanjay, thanks you. I'll be in touch in a little while. Appreciate it, folks.
Y'all have a
See
good
you
day. Nice
tomorrow.
to meet you.
Bye.
But
Good job.